Chris Christie is now hospitalized after testing positive for coronavirus. Christie says he is feeling good and has, quote, mild symptoms. And the hospital stay is a precautionary measure, he says. Christie and several others who also have the virus attended last Saturday's events at the White House where President Trump announced his Supreme Court pick. Gathering with few masks, no social distancing, leading to the question, could this be ground zero of where it all started? More from our own Sanjay Gupta.
What you're looking at is the origins of a likely superspreader event. At least 8 people, including President Donald Trump himself, are now infected. And that is among those who have had the ability to actually get tested.
You can't see the virus, but what is happening during a super spreading event?
You know, it's a very rough analogy, but if we think of a campfire and say that that's a person who is infected and releasing virus, it's not like it's the ring around the person that is actually going to be the risk. It's those that are on the side where more of the virus is being projected, either through talking or through the breeze, the air that's blowing it there.
But it was also these moments that caught CNN medical analyst Aaron Bromage's eye.
When the event finished, when they were all coming up and hugging and shaking hands and saying congratulations, that's where, if I was a betting person, I would be putting my money on of where this occurred.
We know that the safety protocol for the event was to test anyone in close proximity to the president. But it wasn't required for everyone attending the ceremony. And it clearly wasn't foolproof. Again, take a look here, where the people who were diagnosed as positive were sitting, not next to each other, which leads us to again look at what happened right before and right after. Former White House counselor Kellyanne Conway closely leaning in to speak with Attorney General William Barr. Notre Dame President Father John Jenkins closely talking to a group of people with no mask. Lots of people closely interacting with their guard down. It can be difficult to pinpoint these super spreader events. This one ceremony, though, is giving us a look at the anatomy of how it happens all the time. Not just here, but anytime people aggregate together in large groups in the middle of a pandemic.
There's no doubt that there has been transmission at the protests, the political rallies. It's just a fact that the virus doesn't discriminate. Just because we haven't documented it doesn't mean it hasn't happened. It's just that we've got an event now that is very visible, well documented, well tested, and we're seeing the outcome from it.
Sanjay joins me now. Sanjay, can you just tell us for the typical timeline of when someone is infectious after becoming infected, and why this event could have been during that time period?
Yeah, so this is really important. After you're exposed to the virus, you're not going to develop a detectable level of virus in the body for some time. The virus starts to replicate. Eventually it gets to the point where one of these tests that we're talking about is going to be able to detect that. When is that? Well, it can, that's the incubation period. It can last up to 14 days, as you know, Anderson, but typically right around 5 days. And if people are going to develop symptoms, it's around that time as well. But I think what's really important to your question, Anderson, is that bottom line, the purple line. So even in the few days before you develop symptoms, so as to say the president develops symptoms on Thursday, the 2 to 3 days before you develop symptoms is when you're likely to be infectious, and perhaps even most infectious, contagious, according to some of these studies. So, you back up the calendar to Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, perhaps, in terms of when someone, again, pre-symptomatic, but most likely to spread.
Shouldn't everyone who's at the event be tested?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that when I look at that video of the event, and I've looked at that now with a few viral dynamics experts, when you look at them seated for a period of time, you're thinking about what constitutes a close contact, how close they are, obviously, and it looks like they're within 6 feet, obviously, even row to row, not just next to each other. But then, Anderson, also duration. Longer than 15 minutes is typically considered long duration. So if you were sitting next to someone with COVID for that period of time there, I think those people should be tested.
Yeah, Sanjay, thanks a lot more ahead. We'll check in again with our reporters at the White House and Walter Reed Medical Center to get an update on the president's condition as those closest to him, including his doctor, sow confusion.